I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and this is What Do You Think? The series where I ask you a bunch of questions about, well, what do you think? This is my second since I've come back after a year-long hiatus. The last one was about the state of the hobby, to which a few hundred of you replied. I'll go through that shortly, but general idea to catch you up on this. This is a series where I ask you a bunch of questions. I include a link to a Google form down below which you can click on, and then you can go ahead and enter all your various answers. I don't ask for your email, nothing's gate kept. You just jump in, do what you want. If there's, if you decide to enter it 14 times, you can do so. I don't love that, but you could theoretically do so. But with that, before we dive into that, or actually no, the order we're going to do this in is we are going to go through the new questions. This particular video is about AllPlay, because last time I told you that my next one would be about AllPlay. More about that in a second. But then, when I'm done going through the new questions, of which I hope you click on the link and answer down below, we'll be going on to reading over your answers from last video's responses, which was about the state of the hobby. With that said, we're going to go ahead and dive in. First, a note from our sponsor, AllPlay. AllPlay is a channel sponsor. That's why last video I was like, you know what? Maybe it would be fun if we make the next one about AllPlay. They don't know I'm doing this. I have not asked for permission. I have not told them anything. This is, I will be sharing it with them. So like, if you consider this like market research for them or whatnot, but I think it's interesting nonetheless. So I threw that together. But I will say before we dive into it, again, the order is going to be the new questions, then going over the old questions. But first, if you have any particular topics, subjects, questions you have that you would love to see enter these polls, let me know in the comments down below, because I am always looking for great ideas, and spicy ideas can be fun too, but like spicy within reason. We're not doing drama for drama's sake, but if you have an interesting question, like, do you even play the games you have? I think I did that one already. I think I did that in one of the previous videos in this series. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into it with the AllPlay version. So, these are a bunch of questions regarding the company AllPlay. AllPlay, like I said already, is a channel sponsor. They do a number of different things, from board game tables, the shelves behind you, tons of games, and we're going to dive into some of those things over here. These are questions that are, to a certain extent, AllPlay focused, but also general focus as well, around AllPlay subjects. For example, the very first question, and I will not be answering these myself, I answer them when we go through the video series together. Do you own a board game table? What is the question? What are the answers? Do you own a board game table? No is an option. Yes, a custom-made table. Custom-made just meaning you did it yourself, a woodworker did it, your friend did it. It just means something that wasn't done by an established board game table company. Yes, an AllPlay table. That is the third option. Or yes, another established manufacturer. So for example, Uniquely Geek, or Rathskellers, or Geek & Son. Any of those standard board game table companies would be the fourth option. Do you own a board game bag? Option 1. No, you do not. A regular standard bag that you happen to use for board games does not count. If you have one of those IKEA bleak blue bags that are great for board games, does not count. That is not a board game bag. That is a bag that you use for board games. Option 2. Yes, you own an AllPlay board game bag. Option 3. Yes, another board game bag manufacturer, of which I think, unlike tables is like a lot of board game companies that make tables, board game table companies. I do not think there are a lot of board game bag companies. There are a few other. For example, Crafting Kingdoms, is that the name of the company? I believe they have board game bags. I've seen individual companies with board game bags. I know like Glass Cannon Unplugged have one, for example. So that would be the other options there. Do you own a board game playmat? Playmats are exactly what they sound like. They go on top of a table. They are a mat. You can play board games on them. They are better than playing on hardwood surfaces, in my opinion. Do you own a board game playmat? No, you do not. Yes, AllPlay. Yes, another manufacturer. For example, again, Crafting Kingdoms makes board game playmats. There's lots of other manufacturers. What's it called? The Tabletopper company. What's the company that makes the tabletoppers? I can't remember. Topper, something Toppers. Like it's just Topper. Board game Toppers probably is what it's called. Anyways, they make a lot of playmats. But again, yes, I'll say no, yes AllPlay, yes other manufacturer. Do you own board game shelves? Over here we have yes bookshelves. So do you use standard bookshelves as your board game shelves? Option 2, yes Kallax. Kallax shelves are, very, very common. They're the IKEA shelf. I also personally, before I switched to AllPlay, I use the Walmart version, the Better Home and Gardens Kallax shelf. They are basically similar to our Kallax. They look the same. Everyone thinks they're Kallaxes. So include that. If you have the board game, if you have the Better Home and Gardens cube shelving that looks like Kallaxes, check the Kallax option over there. Yes, AllPlay. These are AllPlay board game shelves behind me. If you have those, check that. And then this one I included a category for other, because here's the reason I did an other here and not elsewhere. If you aren't using bookcases, and you aren't using Kallaxes, and you aren't using AllPlay shelves, what are you using? That's what I'm most intrigued by. I'm like, what else can even be eligible? Like, you could just have other shelves. You're like, I store them on the floor and I occasionally grab them. I only have 12 games. I am curious if you have another option. It's not bookcases, it's not calyxes, and it's not AllPlay shelves. Let me know down below. Because, like, IKEA has other shelves too, like the Billy bookcases or whatnot, but those are bookshelves effectively being used as board game shelves, which is very, very standard. That makes sense. Let me know if you're not using any of the three. I would love to know. Then we go to, how many AllPlay games have you played? This is specifically AllPlay games, not AllPlay partner games. By AllPlay partner games, if you go to allplay.com and you check games, you will see games from AllPlay, but also from their partners, like Druid City Games is an AllPlay partner, Bitewing Games is an AllPlay partner. I mean specifically an AllPlay published game. So how many AllPlay games have you played? 0, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, or 11 plus. They have enough that I could have put like 15 plus or 20 plus, but I was like 11 plus is plenty. That means you're pretty much a AllPlay person at that point. But then the next question, and more importantly, how many AllPlay games do you own? So play them is one thing. You went to a convention, you tried it was in your collection for 2 weeks, you played a friend's copy. How many do you own? 0, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, or 11 plus. Again, they don't know I'm doing this, but this does count as pretty decent market research, or at least for my audience. From there, we go to the next question. What is your favorite AllPlay game? This is not what is your second favorite AllPlay game. This is not what AllPlay game do you like. I will not hold it to you. So if you answer and then you're like, but what about, what's it called? That's fine. We can come back to, it is what it is. So just enter the poll again, I guess. But what is your favorite AllPlay game? I'd love to know which game sparks joy with you the most. Then, and this is again open-ended questions over here for these next two, what is your favorite thing about AllPlay? You can pick whatever category you want over here. However, I'm not going to leave the question. Anything you want to put in here, what is your favorite thing about AllPlay? I know my answer, but we'll save it for when we do this follow-up video on this. What is your favorite thing about AllPlay? And then for the spicy part, what is your least favorite thing about AllPlay? And that one, I don't know my answer for that one. I'll come up with something, I'm sure. I can find something, but I don't know it yet. But my favorite thing about AllPlay, I definitely know. My least favorite, I will come up with by the time we come back to this to answer these questions in the future. That is the first part of this, which means we get to go now and look at the responses from last time. So, the responses, the questions, all those things, the state of the hobby. The question, do you feel the hobby has started to decline? 60% say no, 14.9% are unsure, and 25% say yes. My answer would be in the no category personally. I think there are aspects of this hobby that have gone downhill or for the negative, but the hobby as a whole I think is thriving. It's just that along with the good comes the bad, which we'll get to soon on some of these things. This is actually an interesting video in my opinion. If you had to pick any year that was the best year in board games, which would you pick? Please give a specific year, not a range. So we have answers all over the place over here on this number line, but it looks like we have 2016 as a very popular answer. We have 2024. Is that 2024? 2024. 2024 is a very popular answer. There's definitely a curve between 2016 through 2024. It definitely seems to be the largest spike over there. And then we have 2025. What's this one below it? 2024 question mark is the next one. So there's definitely a very clear line as far as where these things go. But it seems 2016 to 2024 is the largest grouping of answers as far as the best year in board games. I always have a gut instinct towards 2012. But I think 2015, a year before this data, is actually, like, I believe if I looked at a lot of my favorite games, they came out in 2015 or around then. So I'm actually kind of a year earlier than this number line. How many of your top 10 games were released in 2021 to 2025? We see a nice strong trend in the middle there at around 4, but it's, between 2 to 5 games of your top 10 games were released in the past, 5 years, which is not a small amount considering the full range that you could have a game released in. I haven't looked at my top 10, so I didn't actually prep for this one over here, but I do think there's definitely a bias towards the last 5 years in my top 10, but I think it's usually going to be the case. How many of your top 10 games were released in 2016 to 2020? So again, we have 2 to 5 over there, so that range over there, which leaves not a lot of room, which means most of people's top games are at this point between 2016 and 2025 overall between those two graphs. How many of your top 10 games were released in 2011, 2015? We're at this point, we're down to 1 being the most common answer. How many of your top 10 games were released in 2010 or earlier? 0 is the most common answer there, which means at this point, we're really looking at people who are, most of your favorite games are in the past 15 years, which is not unreasonable to me, but it definitely does illustrate that sort of cult towards, not necessarily new, 15 years is a long time in the board game hobby. I'd say the past 5 years is more of a cult of the new. The past 15 years just reflects the reality of the bust we've seen, the boom we've seen in board games in the past 15 years. This one over here. Name your 3 favorite games. Use the full BGG name, including the year. So this is the next question for people to name their 3 favorite games. So for example, we have Gloomhaven, Wonderlands War, and Orleans. So we had all these answers over here. We do have somebody, Mega Civilization, Frosthaven, Terraforming Mars, Big Box. I hate to break it, you didn't include the year, so your answer was not going to be calculated in this little sheet that I put together. So, name your top 3 favorite games. Please use the full BGG name, including the year. This is what I did is I pulled all the dates, and I sorted based on your own answers what years had your favorite games. So overall, if you're picking from your top 3 favorite games from the 250 or so answers we got, let's start with, we're not going to look at all of them. I'll look at anything at 10 or more answers. 2008 coming in with 11 picks overall. And again, somebody could have 3 games from 2008. So it's not about the number of people, it's about the number of top 3 games with years. 2008 had 11. 2014 had 15. 2012 had 15. 2011 had 18. 2015 had 23 references. 2024 had 34 references. 2025 had 36. 2020 had 39. 2018 had 46. And 2023 had 51. For our top 5, counting down, 2016 coming in at 5th place with 54 mentions. 2021 coming in at 4th place with 60 mentions. 2019 with 62 mentions. 2022 as 2nd place with 65 mentions. And 2017 with the most mentions at 67 is our 1st place winner for your top 3 favorite games. But then, the next question was a trick question. Not really a trick in a typical sense, but a trick in the sort of sense. Name your 3 most played games. Again, same answer. Please use BGG and all that stuff. But name your 3 most played games. Your favorite games, or at least my favorite games, are not the same as my most played games. I was curious what your most played games are. To that end, again, counting with 10 plus, and we'll focus on the past 5. 2007 had 11. We had 2008 had 15. 2011 had 17. 2014 had 18. 2012 had 18. 2025 had 18. 2015 had 21. 2024 had 36. 2023 had 37. 2020 had 38. 2016 had 48. Coming in at 5th place, we have 2018 with 49 mentions. 2022 at 4th place with 49 mentions. 2017 at 3rd place with 53 mentions, 2021 in 2nd place with 64 mentions, and 2019 is the most played year with 74 mentions. That's what we have as far as that particular bucket of data. But we're not done yet because I had 2 more questions. I had named the 3 things you love about the state of the hobby as it stands today, and then I had named 3 things you dislike about the state of the hobby as it stands today. I looked through this to a certain extent, but then I used AI because I started trying to put together my own answers, and I was like, you know what? Let me plug all of this into AI and see what AI's takeaway. And so I did use AI. I used ChatGPT for this video, for this part of the video, I should say. This other part I used Excel for. This was Excel. That was easy. I'm an Excel person, but you can't do this with Excel. Name 3 things you love about the state of the hobby as it stands today. Okay, and I had a 2-page summation of the breakdown. Key takeaways. A massive variety, and this is, again, everyone could choose to put 3 things themselves, and then I or ChatGPT kind of summarize it all. Number 1, massive variety and choice. The number 1 theme by far is people loving the variety and choice that there are, from solo to 2-player to reprints, deluxifications. Number 2, a strong, welcoming community, online and offline. The hobby is seen as more inclusive and less niche than ever. It's easier to find people via Discord, local events, conventions, cafes, etc. Lots of family time, bonding, and all of that. Explosion of content and information was number 3. A huge appreciation for YouTube reviews, playthroughs, how to plays, podcasts, being able to research before buying, and learning games faster than ever. This dramatically lowers the friction and makes the hobby easier to enter and stay in. Number 4, higher production quality and art. A strong consensus that the components, artwork, table presence are better than ever. I remember the days of Wonder being like the gold standard of board game production, and now Days of Wonder is like a normal board game company by any standard, and I think that's incredible. Number 5, solo and digital play are now much more normal than ever, allowing more accessibility. Solo play is considered to be a standard thing included these days. Board Game Arena, TTS, all these digital adaptations and apps and Steam games and all that, they significantly increase the varieties of ways to play and engage with games, to learn games, to play with others. Lots of accessibility between solo and digital play. Number 6, which I was kind of surprised to see, crowdfunding and indie creativity. Crowdfunding enables passion projects, small publishers, and all of that. So I do like crowdfunding, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have put that as one of the things I like the most today. I feel crowdfunding, if anything, has lost some of its magic. It doesn't mean it's not a good thing, but it's lost some of its magic. Number 7, which is definitely one that I agree with, is mainstream acceptance. Board gaming is now more socially normal. You go into Target, you go into, Barnes & Nobles. Board games are a lot more common. You see them in videos and TV shows, things like that. They start showing up in the background. You're like, why is Hughes and Q's in that crime show? These things are showing up in background significantly more often than ever before. In one sentence, the modern board game hobby is loved for its incredible variety, high production quality, rich online and offline community, and unprecedented access to information, content, and ways to play, solo, digital, and in person. That's the good news. Then, name 3 things you dislike about the hobby. The summation of that is a little longer. The 5 big dislikes by overwhelming consensus. Number 1, crowdfunding, FOMO, exclusives, pre-pledges, delays, all of that. This is by far the number 1 complaint, is that crowdfunding, not just Kickstarter exists, but specifically, and that's, I didn't say Kickstarter or GameFound, they put Kickstarter, the ChatGPT. Gameplay exclusives, artificial scarcity, the dollar pre-pledge, dark pattern marketing, campaigns used to fund previous campaigns, the idea of that, the wait times on campaigns sometimes being 2 years or more, big publishers using crowdfunding as a pre-order, and crowdfunding being more expensive than retail. In general, crowdfunding used to be exciting, and now it feels more predatory, bloated, and risky. I totally understand this. I think there's pros and cons to crowdfunding, but some of the magic is definitely gone. Prices. Number 2 is prices and shipping and tariffs. Games used to be $40, are now $100. Shipping can often cost 50 to 100% of the game. Tariffs make international games even less accessible than before, and deluxe-only versions removing affordability in games in the past. So again, kind of related to crowdfunding to an extent. Definitely some overlap with retail, but related to crowdfunding. Number 3, which I find fascinating because it's in the things you like the most, but different people answer differently. Number 3, overproduction and deluxification. The hobby is seen as visually impressive, but mechanically bloated. Too many miniatures, huge boxes, table hogs, plastic waste, expansions on release, and production being more important than gameplay. And I don't think these things are necessarily in contradiction. I think the production of things is incredible. Puerto Rico is a better game because of the Awakened Realms version. I don't even apologize for this. It's a better game because of that. Castle of Burgundy, playing the deluxe version of the game, is a better experience. There are so many games that are better than their previous versions, but those are also great games being propped up by further deluxification, as opposed to great games or games being put out where the focus is on the production as opposed to the focus being on the gameplay. So these things are not necessarily in contradiction, but it's interesting to have them show up on both the like and dislike lists. Saturation and sameness. People feel buried. There's too many releases per year. It's hard to find the best games. I actually have a video coming out about how to find the best games. Many games feel like reskins. Many games are reskins. Endless sequels, IP farming, reimplementations. It's a safe design space with low risk. Everything blends together and nothing feels special. I get that. I do. I think that's, we talked about this recently in the state of, when I did the State of the Channel video, the thing that prompted this, a big thing about is less innovation. Innovation in general does disappear over time, which means as people who are passionate about the space, you constantly want the newest thing, but you don't really need the newest thing in the same way that you did to once upon a time complete your collection. So you endlessly hunt for that small spark of amazingness when you could just be playing the best games in your collection already. Number 5, consumerism and FOMO culture. It's the emotional undercore of everything. People hate the pressure to buy, shelf of shame, unplayed collections, influencer hype cycles, cult of the new. We're collecting more than we are buying. Overall, the community is not actually mad about games, they're mad about the hobby becoming a retail addiction loop. The core emotional line is, I love board games, I hate what the market has turned them into. Modern games are great, they're just overwhelmed, priced out, manipulated, and out of time to play them all. That is the negatives of this. Anyways, I thought that was very interesting personally. I thought that the consensus of gathering all your answers and summing them in like common trends, I found to be very entertaining and insightful. Not a lot of surprises there, I guess. Overall, it makes sense. Like this is, I would say that that's very much how I feel about the hobby. I think there's a lot of good. Going back to the overall question, is the hobby in decline? No. Is there good and bad along with the growth of the hobby? Very much so. Anyways, that has been your what do you think questionnaire. This one's about AllPlay with the follow-up of the State of the Channel. We'll be back in a month, month and a half, 2 months, hopefully not a year, with reading your answers on AllPlay, as well as whatever the next subject is. Again, feel free to post your ideas in the comments down below. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.